not wait for season 4.
I'm about to watch it. Like,
I don't think
basically once Discovery is done, maybe even before that, I'm gonna watch it.
Okay, because
one of my friends' game publisher companies has like the rights to all the Expanse games, and so I need to like watch it so I can keep up with.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for. Wait, how do I do this? Yeah, I did. See, the thing is, I did, but I didn't realize it was just gonna go on its own. But anyways, how do I do this? Welcome to our two Comcast.
You started a Discovery podcast talking about the Expanse.
I know. I felt so bad. Welcome to our two Comcast where superheroes exist and Discovery Talk is the norm. It is your host, Mo Cross, number one, Mr. Patrick and Anthony. We're here to give you.
Think either I'm tripping or Anthony's camera is doing crazy stuff. I'm not sure what.
Yeah, Anthony's doing.
I feel like I'm at the bottom of model of.
Anthony,
have you seen that new cover for Iron Man where he's like trapped in the like glass of alcohol?
No.
That's Anthony.
I am Tony Stark right now.
But yeah, so all the Tony Starks and all the Expanses aside, welcome to another Discovery discussion episode. We didn't have one last week because sports ball, which some people watched, some people didn't. Yeah. So how was your Super Bowl weekend, guys? I know Anthony doesn't really care, but Patrick, how was your Super Bowl weekend?
I hate both those teams. The only way that I could have won that game is if that field had literally just blackened into death and they had fallen into a pit.
Dark Knight.
If a virus had struck that field and wiped them all out, that would have been the only way I could have won.
So really, you want Bane to show up and be like, "This is your football."
Yeah. If Bane had shown up, or like if the football field had blown up, like in Patriot games or whatever.
Right.
So I did watch a little bit of the game, but it was I was so mad at the world for those teams even playing in it. So
totally understand. I hate both. I don't really care about the Los Angeles Chargers, the Rams. The Patriots, obviously, I
be a Seahawks fan, man. Then you'll learn to hate them.
I'm fine with the Colts. I already hate the Patriots because of the Colts, so it's fine.
I'm protesting football. I'm going on my 36th, 7th year of protesting football.
Don't watch football. How does that count as a protest?
And the Patriots, I only have one like truly like one sports event that actually like I can't even think of. You ever have something happen in your life that's so horrible, so traumatic that even thinking about it like flashes you back?
Oh, let me guess. Are you talking about the Super Bowl where you guys won the 1 yard line?
Yeah, let's not talk about it. But like, I can't even think. People don't even understand how emotionally that moment is for me. Like, I
can imagine.
It's not a sports moment. It's like a life moment.
Yeah,
right there.
On the 1 yard line. Yeah.
Why?
Okay,
yeah. Anyways,
I phased out.
So let's go into Discovery. So we're here to talk
Discovery news, though. I finished the shorts finally.
Thank God!
Hooray! We can finally talk about the shorts.
Yeah, so we can finally talk about the shorts.
And you did not like Calypso, which is strange.
To me,
well, I think. Well, all right. Well,
let's talk about the shorts. Yeah, let's talk about the shorts first, and then we go into the show because Saru's short is very important to
this episode. Yeah.
So we can talk about the short. So the first short is the sweetest one, obviously, because Tilly, and I like that one because it was, that's the heart. Tilly is the heart of the show, and her short actually shows that, with her connecting with this other alien species and trying to trying to find out who she is or what she is, and when she finally does find out, they both realize something, which was super dope because in the beginning of the short, I believe Tilly was talking to her mother about the commander's program. And her mom, she did the parent thing where it's like, you maybe not you. It was almost like this is
poor
not
Tilly.
Me. Yeah, really poor Tilly because she's so sweet. She's
not commander material.
Exactly. And so by the end of the episode, she realizes that
I feel like a lot of Discovery just generally is about people who aren't supposed to be in the position they are according to like society.
True. Because Tilly's is the one that overworks. where she have a triple shot of espresso. The synthesizer told her. She said, "What did she say? This is ill-advised or something." And she had a whole conversation with her.
That short was good, but it's also, in my opinion, the most forgettable one.
I thought
it's the most like a short in that it felt like it had nothing to do with the greater narrative, which I guess Calypso maybe too, but we'll get to that in a moment.
No, but I thought it did because it showed more of Tilly. It showed you why she works as hard as she does, why she goes over the top every time is because she has something to prove to someone, in my opinion. And that showed you where that came from.
And you appreciate a character that doesn't start off perfect and grows. And it looks like another series. I'm not going to go to a Ray rant. What I'm trying to say is that you appreciate Tilly because she's not Ray. I mean, no, because Tilly, it'd be a real tempting to keep Tilly how she is now, but it looks like they're trying to grow her every season or every time she's a story arc, which I appreciate.
Yeah, she's growing. Well, I feel like there's been a shift in making her even more of a main character. I don't think that season 1, especially the first half, was written with her much in mind as much as just a much more supporting character. And now it feels like the episode is definitely writing her in as a primary character. So
yeah. So, but I
did like. I love when shows can adapt to that. When shows can look at like what characters were fan favorites in season 1 and then kind of boost them up, right? Like I think that's healthy for a show, actually.
Yeah, I do too. So there was something groundbreaking of the alien that she found, the predator with the predator powers on the ship. That she made a new discovery.
Yeah, well, she was like some sort of.
Dilithium.
But it was not just any dilithium. It was
like she processing it or something like that.
She built her planet. Her planet is a living dilithium producer, and she made something to. She built a machine to make crystals out of the dilithium gas or something.
Yeah, it's like when that guy figured out how to make diamonds, right? Versus forever we had to like dig up diamonds. I think the basic idea is that she had figured out the process to create dilithium, which is a big deal. And my understanding is that never that doesn't come up. What's interesting is the whole need for resources isn't something they talk a lot about in Star Trek. So dilithium is precious and rare.
Right. Yeah. And there were contracts. There were always contracts to secure certain things, right? Because there were shows of negotiation on NTNG just about the lithium contract. So I don't know.
And they can they do things like where they take dilithium, like parts of dilithium, and recombine them or something. I remember that in one episode of DS9 where they have a lot of traces of dilithium and somehow they recombine it into a full crystal or something. But
and Wesley Crusher cheated in that one test or that one with Riker. But apparently she did something to revolutionize it, and she turned out to be a princess. It was a pretty simple story.
Yeah, which is what you expect out of the shorts. I don't ask for a lot out of the shorts.
And then we got Calypso. I think it was the next one was Calypso. We got Calypso, which is very straightforward. I don't think there's deeper meaning to Calypso other than the fact that it kind of does give you a little I feel like Calypso was foreshadowing. It showed 1,000 years forward, but it didn't show you the world. It just said this is 1,000 years from time.
One big thing about Calypso is it's written by a guest writer, Michael Chabon, and he's a Pulitzer-winning author and stuff. So it was
that makes sense.
Somewhat a highlight, bringing in, how sometimes shows or comics, like Ta-Nehisi Coates writing Black Panther, right? They'll bring in a big name author who's not usually doing comics or something to do something, and that's basically what Calypso was bringing in this big name Pulitzer Prize winning author, one of the top fiction authors, modern authors, and having him write this short for Star Trek. And so that's why Calypso feels a little bit different too. But apparently he's going to keep up with, I think I read a bunch of articles after I watched Calypso because I found it really interesting. Apparently he hopes, or that he's planning to continue writing shorts about that character on like an Odysseus kind of journey across space trying to get back home.
We're talking about, really cool. We're talking about Craft, right? That'd be cool. That'd be cool to see his journey further, or to see, you know, if what does happen. Does he get back to? Did he eventually get back to his world? Did he find his wife and his child? And like, that's cool, because again, I like how they kind of left it off. He had a whole thing with the ship, but you know, it'll also be cool to see his character, you know, further down the road, which I think everyone is kind of interested in.
So I thought that Calypso, I didn't know it was guest author, but it makes more sense now. So what I was going to tell y'all is, it felt like this was like a Twilight Zone episode or some other series of episode that you use that Star Trek thing, but like it was kind of a separate type of feel to that, right? So I like the story. Like, that story could show up in any kind of sci-fi, right? It didn't have to be Discovery. It didn't have to be Discovery at all. Yep. My issue, when I said it was the one I had the problem with, was because you move the timeline forward 1,000 years from Discovery. And again, Patrick, you're right. This could have been, they could have jumped forward 1,000,000 years, and we had this conversation offline. You could have jumped forward 1,000,000 years with the Spore Drive, and then they could have been 1,000 years from that. You know, so we don't know the situation.
Yeah, we don't know what their situation is.
Yeah,
right. Especially even now with the Red Angels doing all kinds of crazy powers, you just don't know what's going to happen.
It'll be fun.
But my issue with the timeline thing is, I hope that is not a fixed thing now, because all right, that would mean that 1,000 years from Discovery, the Federation fell, and I don't like the idea of the Federation only falling in like 1,000 years. You know,
So you caught a line about the Federation falling that I didn't quite catch, so I need to go.
So what I caught was that he was a human that got locked with Betty Boop. In
a war. There was a war going on.
So
there was a war on a different planet. It was not Federation based,
but he was human and he was Earth based, right?
Yeah. So I got a sense that he was just from a planet that was like at war with another planet or another race or something like that.
So when he said, "What is Betty Boop?" and you're from the time before, from long ago, this technology is from the time before. They kind of alluded to that there was a fall or a dark ages, or some kind of disconnection from the. It was very Babylon 5-esque of a disconnection between the high point of technology and now, because he kept saying the time before type of thing. And again, there's many ways.
And that might be true. That. Well, I guess we'll find out. Yeah, I would, especially since the plan is hopefully to explore this character as he travels. Maybe some of those answers will come to fruition, especially if eventually he gets home and we see what his home planet is like and all that kind of stuff.
But
like, really, for example, in Enterprise, I've only watched half a season of Enterprise, but there was that human colony planet that had been like an early colony planet that was way out.
Enterprise.
And
this
like
exactly everyone should watch Enterprise.
Didn't really have any contact with humanity anymore, right? And then they finally got to where they were, and they weren't there, and it was because they all died or whatever. But the point is, like, it could be something like that. Like maybe I don't know. I just we don't know.
So again, we don't know, and I'm just picking up what he said in the episode, right? And I would say for 16 minutes, though, they did a lot of world building and cultural building. I haven't even seen this planet yet, but the thing about if we were lovers, you would give me my name. Like, that says a lot about the culture. It was really interesting little tidbits with like the tattoo met, like all this other stuff that was going on. I really appreciate it, and that's solid writing and world building with 16 minutes.
Yeah,
that had even
I think it's a cool way to let you know there's got to be some top tier writers and authors out there who would just love to get their hands on some Star Trek every now and again.
Yes,
I think doing shorts is a cool way to let them do that. I think that'd be really cool if they let some other top tier playwrights, authors, whatever, like be like, hey, you want to do a short? Because it's also less of a time commitment on their part.
Yeah, this actually could have been a 30-minute or 45-minute like episode or something that they condensed down. And I felt like there was this middle section they did like a montage for how much time has passed and stuff. But there was a lot there that if you could let it breathe for a while. But for a short, it was excellent. I mean, like, the writing was excellent. My problem is
how does it fit into the bigger
Right, because it seems like the writers don't really know what to
so
do.
that's so funny because that's your problem, and that's actually what I like about it because it leaves a lot of questions. And I find that curious, interesting, like fun to explore and see how that comes together.
That's
if they're
going
to explore that,
because it left. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, if they're going to explore that,
if they're going to explore,
I agree. If they don't explore it, then it's going to be forgettable and kind of a sad, like, I don't know. I agree, but I'm hoping that they will. I'm hoping that they will.
And I think I said that in the chat. If they explore it, I'm all for the ride. Let's see where this goes. Because I also like that actor and other things I've seen him in. So I'm all for that. But if this was just a one shot of, like, I don't know if we're gonna see that alien princess again from Tilly's short.
Right. You know? Well, one thing I also know about shows is that if they only go 2-3 seasons, they don't have time to like maybe explore those threads. But when a show starts to hit that 5th, 6th season and they start searching for plots, it's funny how much they start mining back into that early stuff. And they're like, oh, remember this thing we never really handled? Like, so it might be dependent on that as well.
Also, like, it doesn't seem like since the end of Voyager or Nemesis, like that whoever's behind Star Trek, it seems like they don't know what to do with what happens past that, right? The one snippet we have is that the Romulan sun went supernova and it ruined their...
I mean, that's what Picard's going to be all about. So
right, which I'm kind of leery about that because they kind of was like, didn't the Klingon moon just rupture or something and make that their empire in jeopardy? Like, I don't know. I think some things don't really fit. Like even Nemesis, where the Romulan Empire was taken over by this Picard clone thing.
A lot of people don't think Nemesis fits. A lot of people wish Nemesis didn't exist. So
yeah, which also
like a lot of people are just like, just pretend Nemesis.
You know what's funny? You know what's funny?
So Superman 3, it like
your Enterprise is my Nemesis.
I mean, I don't think that's. I think a lot of people don't like.
Wait,
Nemesis was like.
You hate Enterprise. You wish Enterprise never happened.
To me.
I wish Nemesis never happened. Like, it's the one, to me, it's the one dark thing. Like, I would even watch J.J. Abrams' Star Trek again. I'd go back and look at the whole thing. I would study the whole thing. Nemesis just.
I was kind of okay with the first J.J. Abrams. I might get in trouble for saying
all
that.
All of fine with me. It's just because it was a separate timeline. Do what you want, and it was fun. It was a fun jump through space.
It was,
but still, Mo, it makes you feel better. The worst episode that's ever been aired of a Star Trek was not in the Enterprise. It was in
Deep Space Nine. Man.
I know. It was
in Deep Space Nine.
Nope, it was Voyager. We should have this conversation.
It was. Oh yeah, you're right. Yep. You're right. You win. See? All right. That episode is really, really bad. All right.
Okay. So the next short.
There's also a Deep Space Nine episode that's really bad. The Muse. Oh gosh, I hate that episode. All right.
The next short.
It's like an older woman trying to.
I'm gonna do shorts out of sequence.
I feel like that was my teens, Patrick.
So I'm gonna do the shorts out of sequence because I know the Saru short is the most important one, but I'm gonna do them out of sequence. So I'm going to go to the Harry Mudd one. You know, the Great Escape.
It was fun. I liked it. It was super fun
to me. Even though the Saru one is like super important to like the greater plot or his plot. You know,
I feel like Mudd is better as a short character.
Mudd.
I was thinking the same thing. I would watch
a whole season, 15-minute episodes of Mudd because
right.
Yeah,
that episode
Mudd is great in shorts because he's almost like a sitcom character, right? Sitcoms are like 30 minutes. He's not. He doesn't quite.
And you're watching him build this relationship with because so the short starts off with him being caught by a bounty hunter. You know, being he's
Tellarite.
Yes, and he's put on a ship. And what did he steal? What was he accused of stealing? The I don't remember the name of it.
Fancy club.
Yeah, he stole a club.
It was something.
Family. Yeah, it was a hand weapon to bludgeon someone. So he stole it, and I'm watching it like, yo, this is very serious. Like, and he's going through. And what I love with what they do is each person who has ever captured Mudd, right, has gone through almost the same thing, but every time has been different because he tells the person, was it Tellarite, whoever his captor was, the most recent one, he tells him he was poor. And then the last one, and then they flash back to a time when he was caught again, and he tells that captor he was very rich, that he could make him very rich. And then he tells this other captor that he wants to have, relations with her. And I just love everything they were doing with it. I love everything they did with the character, all the way to come back to the end of it, and we find out that every mud that has been that every time someone calls the Federation and hands over mud, it's a cyborg, or it's a, very thin skin.
Apparently cyborg mud also fixed some continuality issues, not in like Discovery, but apparently in like the original series there were some Henry like mud I don't know what it was, but there were some continuality issues where he was showing up somewhere where he shouldn't have been able to show up or whatever. So they were like fixing an old like the original series continuity error with this little short, which is really funny.
That's what makes sense, because he shows up in the animated series too.
Yes, he does.
So, but I love. So whoever wrote that episode should get a raise. I don't know who wrote it. I don't know where it came from. I hope he got paid really well, because the standard escape comment stuff was very entertaining, but that's something we hadn't seen before. They just edited a really cool way of seeing how he's used these same lines. And it's kind of like, you ever see The Mummy, the first Brendan Fraser Mummy, where the guy was like, he starts saying, "Oh, please, Lord, protect me," and then it's like, Jehovah, Muhammad. And that's how Mud is with his lines and his lies. Like, what's going to work to get me out of the situation? It's like, is it sex? Do you know it's sex? Tell her right. It's sex, isn't it? So him going through that was very entertaining, very interesting to see how he has explored the galaxy in his own way for multiple cultures, and he has no qualms, and he's very amoral. And he kept saying, "Oh, the Federation is gonna be so cruel," and anything like that. And then when the officer beams aboard, he sees Mud, he gets this like, okay.
Yeah, and then the guy's like, "Why? What's the problem?"
At first, I thought that he was gonna be like, he was like, "Hey, Frank,
we're not gonna pay you.
Hey, Mud, guy, yourself," or something like that, right? That's what I expected from just this little short,
right?
But go ahead.
No, I understand where you're going, because I thought he had escaped multiple times, and every time this is the same ship for some reason. It's the same people that that get him. So that's what I was expecting, but it blew my mind, and I ended up. So I'm watching it, right? I remember exactly where I was or what I was doing when I was watching. I was in bed and I was watching it, and I just started crying. I was dying laughing, and it's so fun. It's so fun, the end of it, when we find and then as soon as the Federation officer says he was given to you by a female bounty hunter, and I was like, oh my god, that must be Mud. And we get back to his ship, and we see at least 10 dozen of them, and I'm like, yeah, okay.
And the humor in this episode actually lands. Like
100%.
And Discovery has been trying to be funny at times. Like, they try really hard, and like that sneezing in the elevator thing that I think they thought was going to be funny.
Yeah, that wasn't really funny at all. That was a horrible way to introduce that new character too, if they're going to make him a pretty major character.
Right?
Like,
and people just accepted that? No, that's unacceptable.
I don't know, but it does make sense if you move forward to the next. Let's. I'm sorry.
Hold on. Let me say something about this episode. So, but then to have this clever, because we love our rogues, right? We love our roguish type of characters, our charlatans. And when he's listing off his crimes, and it's like, and penetrating a space whale. Yeah, to be there. But then to see this clever way that, for all intents and purposes, this great example of humanity's evolution, has he had this clever plan where not only does he collect on his own bounty multiple times, but he also makes it so people won't believe that he's been caught. Because how many times are you going to get fooled by this, right?
Yeah.
And how long before the word comes out that no one's going to go after his bounty because I don't want to get gypped again or whatever.
Mud represents, so there's people who use technology for good, and there are people who use technology for self-gain. And Mud represents the fact that there are still humans that exist within the realm of the Federation that aren't these evolved beings who are like, wait, I can do what with technology? Heck yeah.
You're right. And I kind of feel like, I don't know what Mud's ultimate ending is, but I hope that he ends up in Ferengi space somewhere.
I was thinking the same thing. Mud and Quark is a dangerous combo.
But I think that character's grown on me. I would watch. I don't want a series, so don't anybody that's listening. Don't get me wrong. I don't want a series. I want a series of shorts.
Yeah,
like just little shorts.
If they similar to what they talked about with Calypso of doing like one short with that character every like between each season, just do that. Do one new Mud short every mid-season.
I mean, because it, like you said, the commitment is not really there because you can come in, do your episode, and be out. You don't have to be there. Like,
and you don't need to pay the main cast and all that kind of stuff. Like you can
because again, with the with the Calypso's episode, it was literally just him and the ship. So that all you need is a soundstage for that.
I mean, there's a reason that Michael and like Michelle Yao and those guys, they'll never have a short. It's because you have to pay them a bunch more money.
Yeah. But this character and
again, with Rainn Wilson, I mean, it's what probably a couple days.
Yeah, exactly.
And you could explore more of the reality.
Definitely,
that Discovery is not going to go on the side of the side of the underworld that you're not really going to get a lot, right? We've only gotten a couple episodes of the underworld when it comes to.
Well, we're going to get that in the other show, I'm sure.
Okay, and the last thing about Mud is I really like Rainn Wilson, so I want to see more of Rainn Wilson. So I don't, you like seriously, like honestly, to be honest, if they wanted more Mud, right, instead of trying to force him in the episodes like we did. I mean, he wasn't forced last season. It was a nice episode, but it was the time loop thing. You can do these shorts, and like Patrick alluded to, it fixed a continuity issue. So you can do that with Mud. You can use him to bridge certain things if you want. But if it's very whatever. The last short, again, like I went out of sequence. The last short we want to talk about is obviously the Kelpien one. I forget the name of the episode, but it was something about stars, and this shows Saru's. This is Saru being taken.
I just want to hear Anthony's thoughts on this because he's been talking about Saru since the beginning, since episode 1. So I want to hear Anthony's thoughts on this.
This shows Saru and his people. This is so important because it now ties into the last episode that we got. There's so much nuance to this one, so it's really important. I'm just finally happy that Anthony finally watched it. Because now, like when we talk about the last episode we got, there's so much nuance to it, so you can actually understand what like when Saru says certain things or when he does certain things, you understand why he's doing them. Now we know exactly why he is and what his people believe in. It's amazing how everything works. His dad happens to be one of the priests, so they line him up for the for the slaughter, and they send him up to whatever ship. And when pieces fall, his dad collects them, gives them to Saru to dispose of them. But we know Saru didn't. He built a communicating device and sent he built a beacon and sent a message out. And Philippa was the one who caught it, and she came and she got him. He can never go back according to what Philippa and him said, but it's somehow now more complicated because of what he has discovered about himself in episode 4 of the main show Discovery.
We should probably wait till later to talk about that, but I think it's more complicated for other reasons too. But go on.
So
what'd you think of this short, Anthony?
I liked it. It was simplistically complex, right? There were so many different layers. About first I got hungry when I was watching it a little bit, so I went and made some steak, and then I came back and finished the episode.
Got hungry,
and then I thought
had some shrimp.
The cow I was eating, I wondered if my cow had the same fears of Saru, and I thought how tasty his family would taste. but after that, no, I thought it was really great to see this. It kind of reminded me of the Time Machine, where you had this one people that were being exploited by the underground people, and you have this religion that's built up. They just follow. You don't question it. I love when he was talking about, well, if this is the truth, why can't I ever question it? And there was a lot going on there. Like he's making his sister.
Doesn't this short basically make episode 2 completely ridiculous?
No, it doesn't. It actually adds and I'll say why it does, because again, I think it's two different situations. Especially, I know why you want to do that. I know why you're doing that. You're starting that, but it's two different situations.
Because wait, hold on. Why is episode 2 ridiculous?
Because Patrick feels like if Giorgio could have gotten Saru out, why couldn't they have saved?
Yes, I thought about that.
Hold on. She could have saved. So in essence, they could have saved what's his name, Jacob, Joshua, whatever his name was, right? And then taken him. But then he was the lone technology expert, right? There was, according to the way they built the episode up, there was no other technological family in the whole. So if you put him there, if you leave him there, he can end up doing more for society than taking him out. That's
not why they put him there at all. So
yeah, they never said that at any point in the episode. We're like, we would like to take you, but we can't.
No. I'm saying it was inferred, but I'm inferring it because again, go ahead.
It's a bad inference.
Saru built a communication system out of space debris.
Mm-hmm.
When they were using fishing wire, when they were literally like Stone Age, a little above like Bronze Age people. That would be like if we sent a television back in time, and somebody in Roman times built a working radio, like the level of genius that Saru and ingenuity he showed in that. If he can't revolutionize his culture, I don't know who could. So your argument is kind of null and void there.
No, it's not, because guess what? He can't go back. He was not. Okay,
no. You're missing what I'm saying.
Okay, go ahead.
Your theory about the guy having to be left because he could bring prosperity to his people. Saru was questioning what's going on. He just built a working communication system.
Yeah, Anthony's saying Saru also represents that to his society.
Right.
It's two different arguments and it's two different commanders. So let me see. So Pike is like, okay, so we are on a mission, right? I don't think Georgia was on one. And
no, I agree with this. I agree with what you're going to say, which is that Michelle Yeoh's character Giorgio is a different captain than Pike, and that Pike acted in the way he did, right? Because of his beliefs, and Giorgio acted in the way she did because of her beliefs. I agree with that, but I think Pike is wrong. That's what I'm trying to say.
He's wrong.
Right, and also we're missing a point. Giorgio isn't a captain at this point. He's a lieutenant.
Yeah, she was a lieutenant.
And she took the idea to Starfleet, and Starfleet signed off on this.
Which is cool. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. But again, Pike, hold on. So Pike is a captain on a mission. He's not the captain of Discovery. He is on a special mission.
He's literally the captain of Discovery at this point.
That's a technical.
That weird part where like sometimes he's captain and sometimes he concedes. Remember,
he's not because he's
kind
not
of confusing. I don't get it either.
He's only done it once.
It's true.
He did it after.
I don't get it actually.
He did it before his mission was extended, and he said, "Saru, my mission's over. It's your mission. This is your ship, your mission now." And then it was like, "Hey, I'm staying on." He's like, "The Saru no." He's like, "Yeah,
that might be true."
So they established he is captain now, if you want, but he's captain.
So, anyways, I don't necessarily disagree that Pike did it within his beliefs. I just think he's wrong. That's all. Yeah. That's basically it.
So anyway, back to the episode though. We've mentioned his sister sometimes. That's going to be a link that's going to come up, and like you're generally worried if his sister's been eaten already. And the bravery in his character in this moment to leave whatever you. To face his religious, cultural.
He's literally met a single person for 10 minutes and decides to leave his entire society behind.
He's a rebel. He's a rebel. And I feel like this is going to be one of those Daenerys characters where because like even the last episode talked about how he found his power. It made more sense to me now that there must be some kind of technology they use to trigger the pain sensors and those receptors, whether they've been bred in those or what, to make them think this is how life's supposed to be. It's very interesting.
Okay.
Did y'all hear that?
No,
you cut for a second, but you're back.
I got a phone call. my overall point is I really liked it. It showed some level layers of Saru's character. And now we have something to look forward to because we want to see the return, right? We want to see these aliens that have been cultivating a whole sentient people for food. We want to see what that larger picture is.
The Ba'ul, some of the sorts. Ba'ul.
Something like that. But also there's things just in there like, Dad, you served them up. You served our people up to them. How much did you know? How much does this, you know what I mean? Like,
what exactly do you know? That's an important question that I think probably will come up at some point. You know how we're saying that some of these shorts could connect to the greater thing? I think Saru's might be one of the biggest threads. Like maybe like
it's already
season 5. If we get a season 5, season 6.
But it also has me kind of. So we knew he was a competent officer, right?
Mm-hmm.
We knew he was a competent officer. Saru should be the smartest person on that ship.
Here we go. Here we
go. I agree that we're learning how. I think they're developing that. I think they're making him smarter in this season, if that makes sense. The whole languages thing was one way in which they showed off how excelled he was, and they talk a lot about his Starfleet training and how advanced he was in Starfleet training. So I think they're building that into his character. I don't know if they originally in season 1. Again, there's a lot of stuff where it's like they're looking at season 1 and building onto it in a lot of ways. I think they're looking at his character and saying, okay, we want to like advance this character. And one way they're doing that is making him definitely even more of a intellectual hotshot. Now, one thing maybe they need to talk about more is, remember, Discovery was supposed to be, when you first meet everybody on Discovery and they come on the ship, it's like a super elite. It's not your normal starship. It's like the best of the best.
It was literally the best of the best. It was a science vessel.
And maybe they need to be playing that up a little bit more and playing down Michael being better than everybody a little bit more,
right?
And show, hey, this is literally the best Starfleet has on one ship.
And the other thing that stuck out to me was what was the lieutenant's name? Giorgio. It made that line he said in season 1 about how you robbed me of having the same experiences that you had, because he literally owed his
new life
to her, that she went to bat for him, and so since he's known her since her, because I think Michael
it makes her death that much more tragic, because he literally owes everything to her.
And Michael met her when she was already a captain. Saru met her when she was a lieutenant.
I think the difference is Saru came onto the ship as an adult, so he had to like basically probably go through academy and everything as an adult.
Oh, whereas Michael, everything, like he had to go through everything.
Exactly. Whereas Michael is like, thanks to Vulcan, by the time she's like 18, she probably knows everything she needs to know to be in Starfleet.
Yeah, I wasn't questioning that. I was saying that. So she met Giorgio when she was a captain. Saru's known her since she was a lieutenant, since she was a junior officer somewhere, right? So their relationship was a lot deeper than we thought, and so he's waited a long time to be the number 2, to be to get that other level, to get to that next level of command, right? She already raised him from a primitive society to the stars. Probably sponsored his membership in the Starfleet. Probably sponsored
definitely
his probably helped got him
probably had the talk with like, don't screw this up for me, I'm going up after you,
right? And so he was, I bet you, was a big thing to get assigned to her ship. She probably requested him. I just feel like in my mind, with these little bits of snippets we have their relationship, in my mind the narrative was building these threads and layers of it makes sense how he treated Michael when they first.
It adds weight to some of the stuff that happened in the first few episodes of season 1.
But it also does build on their relationship past from the first episode where they are now.
And they really are siblings.
Yes.
Yeah, and they really are kind of like rival siblings. They're both trying to get mom's attention, right?
Pretty much. And Giorgio is mom. Anyway, so thank you very much for sitting with us through the shorts. We will catch you. So we're gonna go into really quick the actual episodes themselves. So episode 3, because we didn't talk about it last week because somebody didn't want to.
We're doing. I thought you guys did do it without me. Okay, cool.
No, we won't. We can't.
All right. No, it's great.
It's not a Discovery discussion without Patrick.
What
Is
even
it, Anthony?
happened in episode 3?
Exactly. Look at this. Episode 3, the title of the episode was Point of Light. The synopsis goes as a surprise visitor to the U.S.S. Discovery brings shocking news about Spock and dredges up past regrets for Burnham. Yes. So 2 things are really important is we finally get more of Spock's mom in Discovery, and she finally comes on board and she steals, I believe, Spock's medical file, and she brings it on board, and she asks. So she gives it to Michael, and Michael in turn turns to what's his face, Pike, and asks him, "Hey, you're a captain. You can get into it. You can override the order or something, and you can get into this files, and you can find out what's really going on with Spock." And we find out something interesting with Spock.
What did Michael do to Spock, man?
No, please don't say it. Please don't say it.
Stick pencils in his ears.
Their brother. Oh, whew, thank God. What did she? I thought you were gonna go there.
The Game of Thrones. The Jamie Lannister.
What did she do to him? She's so afraid.
It could be one of 2 things. So
interacting with him again. Did she
Go ahead.
falsify his tests so that he flunked out of school or something? What did she do to him?
She show him up? Because again, if she does show him up, is how do you let a human being show you up? But if she does show him up, Anthony is gonna be super mad because
maybe he had the hots for a Vulcan girl and Michael broke it off somehow.
Right.
It could be do.
One thing was mentioned in the episode that kind of caught my attention, probably caught yours too, was when the Spock's mom said to her, because of who Spock is, or because he's Vulcan, I could not give him the emotional, support a mother would be able to give her child. So when that happened, I gave it to you, and that could be one way because everyone kind of knows Spock is a mama's boy. That could be one thing that she did, or it could be something that very, very personal between the 2 of them. It could, probably competition, or like you said. I mean, there's so much, but I think it's.
Mommy told me she doesn't love you.
Right. It could be something where. It could be something where we find out later, and it could. You know what? You know what would piss me off? If it's nothing that big and they built it up.
If I know, because they're really building it up. Michael did something.
Yeah, if it's something so simple
real bad to him.
She stole his number 2 pencil, and he never forgave her. That's the last time I'd watch the show. I promise you. I'd be so pissed. But so that's one of the that was one of the stories in the episode. We find out that Spock actually went crazy, killed 3 officers or 3 psych officers. Another thing that happened in the show is we finally get back to we meet Ash again, as Ash Voke at this point, or Voke Ash or whatever, but he's on the Klingon he's not on the High Council, but he's supporting what's her name? Laurel. He's supporting Laurel. Yeah, he's supporting Laurel. Or he's her right hand man.
The new Empress, Queen Mother of the Klingon people.
And we find out that there's a coup coming in. One of the guys, one of the older council members doesn't want.
So there were some great things about this scene that I got excited about, like seeing a D7 from the original series, like the plan for it.
So,
they're growing their hair back.
But apparently, that D7 doesn't belong there, and it's supposed to be like a D5 or something like that. But because they messed up in Enterprise at some point and showed a D7 way before they were supposed to be one, there's
Enterprise would get something like that wrong.
Oh my god!
And I listened to an interview with one of the guys that did the props, and apparently one of the showrunners or something like that, or one of the people in the office.
Is the Enterprise got lots of time traveling though? Maybe that D7 just.
No, it was a random shot of meeting the Klingons, and the model people said the models was like, "Hey, you can't use a D7. It doesn't belong there." And they're like, "Well, put it in the show." And they had some crappy rendering from when it showed up in some other Star Trek series, I think a Voyager episode, but it was like way in the background. And so one of the model makers spent all on his own time, got it done in a weekend where it looked great. And it apparently pissed somebody off. And they told him that Rick Berman doesn't want your model unless you put more windows in it. And they were like, "No, this is the model to use." And they was like, "Well, they put the other one anyway." And so they thought Rick Berman had said to do this anyway, and they couldn't understand why. After they put their own time, it was a free model for him and everything like that. And so apparently, when it aired and he saw the episode, he freaked and came down and said, "I never want to see that ship on screen again." because it was the wrong era. And apparently the people have like hardcore Trekkies have been upset about this for a while, about how they used the D7 and they've skipped over like some of the other series.
Wow.
So it's a whole thing on that I never knew about.
That's
well,
awesome. That was
apparently now Vogue designed it. Well, I think what they were trying to show is, so Vogue is part human, part Klingon, and all the Klingon ships we saw before this are kind of like, they're just really different looking than all the Klingon ships you see starting with the original series. And so I feel like what they're trying to show is that like Vogue Ash has put some of what he knows from Starfleet knowledge into building this Klingon ship, and that then influences Klingon ships going forward.
And that's really interesting because if you have the D7 now, and the D7 is the other iconic ship from the original series, right?
Right.
Then you go forward and a little bit, and there's a thing in the original series where the Romulans are using D7s, and so there was a production cost why they did that. But in storylines, they've always said that was the time where the Klingons traded the module for the D7 because it was such a good design or a proven design, and the Romulans gave them the cloaking technology, and that was the exchange. So that if this is actually influenced by Starfleet technology, that's a very interesting way.
Romulans getting a hold of Starfleet technology without Starfleet even knowing it, right?
Right. That was really good lore building in there. And it was also cool to see Klingons with hair again.
Yes, that was fun.
The new look for Klingons is much better. Yes, I was never on the like hate about the Klingon look before, but now that they've gone to where they are, I like that they've gone to where they are. It's good.
L'Rell has a baby that's half the size, or
not just any baby.
Was it a smaller baby, a half the size baby, albino baby?
The albino.
Yeah, and she got pregnant, but then she took it out of her womb and gestated in a chamber she never went into, apparently.
Yeah, she never met the baby. She never really was a mother to the baby.
The albino.
And we end up, so that's a very interesting storyline because now we get to see Section 31. They're back, and it's surprising because I thought she was going to be the head.
The Section 31 ship. It looks really cool, but that rendering was the worst. That was the worst special effects they've done so far in Discovery. Remember when Discovery first rolled out the very first trailer and you saw Discovery and it looked like really bad CGI?
Yes.
That is exactly what this ship looked like. I was like, how did this pass by like quality, like control or whatever? It looked really bad. Like, I like the design, but the CGI was really bad on that ship.
Especially as you set the bar so high, where in the first season, even background Federation ships had so much detail.
Oh, totally.
And the thing you've been selling is the special effects are like,
I don't know what happened there.
Right. So and to have this, which is going to be
going to launch a whole new show.
Right. That Section 31 could be a whole show by itself because
it's about to be. They're launching that show, and Michelle Yeoh is like, that end part is the pilot for a new show, basically.
Oh,
pretty much.
With Ash and Michelle and Giorgio on that ship going out and doing stuff. Like, that is, they literally were piloting the new show. So you're seeing, it's like if Voyager had shown up on Deep Space Nine a few episodes, like a year before before Voyager launched, right? That's basically what they just did. But if you're going to do that, you better show the ship looking good, not like...
Right. And again, it was an interesting ship with very interesting features.
I loved how they did the whole thing where you thought you were looking at it right side up, but then they flip it around and stuff. Like that was great. That was cool.
While Patrick and Anthony are talking about the ship, I just wanted to talk about what Giorgio's plan to have L'Rell, take back power, because again,
we geeked out a little too much, Patrick.
Yeah, you guys kind of.
No, what was going on there is like, when America like goes in someplace and is like, we like this dictator better than that dictator because this dictator does things we like. That's pretty much what's going on here. The Federation was going in, making sure, because it was bad for the Federation when the Klingon Empire was in flux and all the houses were fighting amongst themselves and trying to prove who was more bloody than the other. And so stability, even if it's like stability under, L'Rell or whatever, is good for the Federation regardless. So they went in to make sure that stability was upheld, and then they left, and
secrets, secrets about the new ruler, and
Yep.
So there's things to go over there.
Yeah,
she also
some
came
power.
in. We know that almost all weapons in Star Trek could disintegrate a person with one hit. Doesn't matter where you get hit, right?
Yeah.
But we rarely see that happen. So if somebody's like, we don't know why. We don't know if it's because of energy conservation or what. We know the Emperor does not care.
No, does not care.
She does not.
And she does not like wasting time.
Well, that's why like most other species use, or what are they called, disintegrators or whatever, disruptors. But Federation considers those like weapons lethal. Too painful, and it's not just they're lethal because it's painful when you die to them. The Federation like bans their use, right?
Right.
Phasers
apparently they kill you, but it's like, oh, I just disappear,
disintegrate or whatever.
Yeah.
And we know the Emperor does not breastfeed, but she has a soft spot for babies. So
right, she does. So
but Anthony, did you get the Deep Space Nine connection?
So about the monastery or the
about the monastery, about the albino.
Yeah, right. So I was wondering if y'all got that. So
I got it.
Okay.
Nobody forgets the albino episode.
No, not at all. So, do you know what we're talking about?
It's like one of the best Klingon episodes ever, period.
Okay, so for y'all that don't know, Jadzia Dax, my Star Trek waifu, if I had to pick one, that's who.
Even though she used to be a man.
I mean, hey, I'm all for it. I mean,
it's fluid, man. It's fluid.
Exactly.
But so she used a trill, and they have these worms inside them that pass on their knowledge, experience, memories to every host. One of her hosts was Curzon Dax, who was part of the Dahaja Masters or whatever, who were the original Klingons from the TOS episode days, right? And they came to do one last final mission because the albino killed one of their sons, right? And he had evaded them for like 80 years or something like that. I'm never real quite sure how Klingons age because they were still kind of spry.
I think they live like 200 years or something like that.
Yeah. So, yeah, they have to at this point. So, even though it was certain death, they went after the albino because the albino just got tired of running and hiding. And he said, look, my army's here. Come at me, bro. Whoever lives, lives. And, and so, while it wasn't said specifically, it seems like that this is the albino.
Well, and it makes sense why, because apparently the albino is constantly, I think there's some other references to him just constantly frustrating Klingon plans, right? Like he's like the he's like the Khan of Klingons, if you will, right? He's like the Klingon guy who is behind the scenes always frustrating Klingon plans, right? And so they talk about that in that episode, is like the albino it's not just like those guys have been hunting them. It's like Klingons in general hate this guy.
He's manipulating things behind the scenes for a long time.
And now it makes sense why. Like if he ever, let's say he finds out who he is, his background, his parentage, then he has a real beef with the Klingon Empire. Like a real beef with the Klingon Empire.
And I'm wondering how far back they took this. Like, did they know? Like, because I gotta say, if they were writing this back in season 1, bravo.
Yeah.
Bravo, because the payoff. And
because the Rel is because they already had, because Volk was an albino, so yeah.
Right. So I mean, they had the guy from the house that got killed in Quark's bar. His family was there. So they had the last of that family or whatever. So I mean, they had some really. You can't say there's a lot of new medium where you can go, they don't know the source material, right? But we can never really say that about Discovery. The most you can say is they chose to ignore something you wouldn't ignore.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the difference. I think they know the source material. Just sometimes they say, you know what, this messes too much with where we want to go that we're just going to kind of tiptoe around it. But they never yeah, I agree.
And it's also cool because that's also the planet that Worf spent time on in between the destruction of the Enterprise D and E to study in that monastery. So that's you know what? It was just great. It was great to have that world flesh out more and some story. I imagine this albino like the super villain of the Klingon.
That's what I agree. That's what I think too. And now we know his origin story, and it makes him even cooler.
And even though we know how he ends up, he's had to have success for all these decades because it's not like he had to face them. He just said, "You know what? I did kill your son. We've had this for a while. Just come at us. Like I'm at the end of my life." So we don't know what successes he's had, what failures. We don't. There's a whole thing there that I don't know. I just
Mommy and Daddy left me on this planet to rot.
Right. I'm part. My dad was like a human Klingon. Like I don't an albino. And then they tried to kill me. This would be my empire. Like yeah. It's a lot to. Also made sure why he was so powerful because what if he reclaimed the rights of his house one day? Maybe he was an emperor, but they were like, all right, your house, lands, or resources are yours, and he's like, yeah, yeah, thanks. So I know we just went really deep cut, and they'll probably never explore this,
they explored it just enough as it is. I don't know. I want to explore it more. Like.
It'll leave it as it is. It'll probably be in books somewhere or something like that, which is fine. Everything doesn't need to be. Every thread doesn't need to be pulled. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't have to be, but this was enough to be like, all right, little joy in my heart. Especially, I love Deep Space Nine, so anything that goes back to Deep Space Nine, I'm all for it. All right, we spent a lot of time talking about this.
Yeah, so there was one more thing that happened that I want to talk about. So Spock's mom, I think that's it. We covered everything that happened in this episode, right? Spock's mom and the Klingon Empire, right?
Spock's mom gets mad at Burnham when she says, when Burnham tells her,
I can't tell you what I did, or I can't tell you what she didn't tell her.
I don't know what she did.
So what happened? It was what happened between you and Spock, and she was like, I can't. And then she gets mad and she walks out, and she's like, I'll do this on my own. But
yeah, Spock's mom a little badass. She got a little
yeah.
We never saw this version of Spock's mom. I mean, I see what his dad saw in her. So, is she a little bit of a helicopter mom? She got the Asian mom in her.
Oh man.
Okay, so so we're done with episode 3.
I got an Asian false mom. I know. I'm just saying. Oh Lord. Don't judge. I'm not. All right.
Yeah, let's go to episode 4.
People who watch this don't know you, Anthony. They don't know.
Yeah.
That's true.
That's true. Lord.
That's true.
The views of Anthony
send all letters to Collins.
The views of Anthony do not represent the views of Earth 2. Let's just go with that. And so we're on to episode 4. Okay, so honestly, this was a fun episode with some deep cuts as we kind of went into.
Best episode of the season.
I think it was episode 3 to me was kind of
maybe the most Star Trek-y episode of Discovery.
Are we talking about 3 or 4? Are we talking about 3 or 4?
4, I think.
I'm about to give a final thought. So I was like, for me, 3. For me, 3 was cool, but I was like,
It moved the story along a little bit, and it was important for us to see Ash and Laurel stuff.
I didn't care about them, but okay, I guess.
And it launched a new TV show,
pretty much. But episode 4, as they jumped ahead of me, is one of the best Star Trek Discovery episodes. It's also in line for a top tier Star Trek episode, period, because it was really deep. It was to me it's in line for top tier Star Trek episodes. I'm not gonna say that's all I'm gonna say. The episode is an Obol for Charon. Synopsis is a mysterious fare threatens the U.S.S. Discovery. Saru and Burnham's bond grows when Saru is forced to acknowledge a deeply unsettling Kelpien truth. Pike receives new intel on Spock from a loyal friend. His loyal friend, I need to see more of because she was kind of cute. So number 1 from Enterprise comes on board. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Anthony. You want to say something? Because he was on mute.
The number 1 thing irks me so much.
I don't know why.
I don't know why. It makes sense that Picard would have an old sense of style when it came to his command and who he came up under. I get it, but every time they say it, I get like, dude. You go back.
I understand. I understand why. Because I feel for Anthony, it's like the only. I don't want to say the only person that, or only. You feel very comfortable with only one person saying number 1. Is that what you're
going? It's an association. It's an association. Yes. So like,
all right,
you know, and again,
what's the name of her? What's the name of his number 1?
I'll look it up real quick. You guys can keep talking.
I'm rooting for. I think she should be the new captain of Discovery. I liked her that much in that short scene. I'm like, all right, let's get rid of Pike. I like this girl. She's willing to do what she's got to get done.
Man, episode 2 ruined Pike for you, didn't he?
Oh yeah, that's right. You never forgave him since then. I get it.
Pike's okay. He's growing on me a little bit, but he's not my fave.
I know. So there are 2 stars. There are 2 stars in this episode. Obviously the main star is Saru, but like the second star for me personally
Tilly?
Is
Stamets?
No.
Jet Reno?
Yes. She was really amazing. She was fun. And it's fun to see someone.
You like to throw around stuff like best in Star Trek and etc., but I don't throw that stuff around. She is moving into possibly being my favorite engineer in all of Star Trek.
I'm serious. Yeah. It was so amazing seeing her. I think the best part about it was seeing her and Stamets go at it. It's like who's right and who's wrong, who's more wrong and who's more right. It's like it was kind of interesting scene, and then when they finally found their balance, when it came to we're gonna go into the episode.
It was one part where she was like, you know, I don't know if you know me very much, but I'm insulted. I'm insult proof. You gotta come on.
You know what she reminds me of is, remember Apollo 13? And like back on Earth, all the engineers like using duct tape and stuff to try and figure out how they were going to get the astronauts back home. Yes. She's like 100% drawn from that ilk of engineer.
Yeah,
she just does not care about anything else.
And it's like while Stamets is all zipped up and straight laced, and she's like really casual. Her jacket was open, and she was just chilling. Like it's such a contrast. They're both brilliant. They're both brilliant. It's just very different styles of getting to the same point, and I thought
she's there to solve problems, and
yes,
that's how she looks at the problem. That's how we're gonna do it,
and she wants to solve it straight up. Stamets is more so like
learn new things.
Yes, and she just wants to solve.
This is how this works. We know this works reliably. We're gonna do this, and she's so matter of fact. Like, she's just so matter of fact about how she
that actor delivers the lines perfectly.
Like, how are you
I think that's what it is. I think that's what it is.
Is this going to electrocute you? Yeah, probably will. So, and again, they brought science back into it, where it was like relatable science facts that somebody had to go. Like, there was things in the other Star Treks, even the original Star Trek, for how we might think it's dated now, where you could tell they talked to actual scientists about stuff and how to solve problems and what technology was coming out. And the fact that they must have a really good consultant that was like, because they brought. I mean, I'm no engineer, but to do the science of how you can conduct that with electricity and how gas ionizes and things like that. That's what I want to see in my Star Trek. I want to see really smart people solving problems with their minds. And you know, Star Trek doesn't need the Force; it has science. Science is the science, engineering, application, human social development. And to have these geniuses show that genius, I really appreciate that in this episode. I know it was a small thing. I know I'm geeking out. I know people want this.
No, but it was great. It was great.
Meteor rock space thing, but
she better not die. She needs to be a new main character.
She should have been redshirted. I think she might.
If they kill her, I'm gonna be mad.
Yeah, I hope she doesn't get redshirted. So
this is Discovery. I don't necessarily trust everyone survives. So,
but they don't kill people. Oh, here we go.
No, they kill people, and they will. They'll kill some people. Watch before the season ends. That's why I went Saru. So when we get to Saru's death, let's get to Saru's death scene.
Okay.
I thought maybe Saru was going to kick it because it's Discovery. If it had been any other Star Trek, I would have known he wasn't going to kick it.
You know what's funny?
But because it was Discovery, I was like,
While you think that, I thought Saru was too important of a character.
I think they like Game of Thrones way too much.
Because Culber, I can see why Culber had to go. And Dr. Culber, I can see why he had to go.
I'm telling you, somebody you like is gonna die before this is over.
I think because Culber is going or Culber went, Stamets might be next. And the reason I think Stamets might be next is because this very episode of Network, Stamets is my next character to go. I think we should have a pool.
I don't think Stamets is gonna die because I think Stamets is bringing in too much money.
Yeah, true.
I think that there are a lot of people watching the show for Anthony Rapp. And take out Anthony Rapp.
But I don't see.
Why do you think they just gave Michelle Yeoh her own show?
Right. They got to do something with Michelle Yeoh.
They killed her in the second episode, and now she's already back. They gave her her own show and all that good stuff. But no, okay. So let's go to the main story actually before we get to Saru's, because
we just lightly touched on the death, right?
Because his actual story, his death, all ties into the actual episode. But if you want to, I just feel like so the reason I want to go into
first go to the A plot. Go to the A plot and tell us what the A plot is.
So the A plot is, so they're in warp. I think they're chasing Spock because the number one comes in and she's like, number one comes in and has, I have information. I have more on Spock.
I hope she's the new captain. Get rid of Pike.
This is how we're gonna. Why do you want to get rid of Pike? So he's such a great character. Anyways, so she comes in and she talks about Spock and where he went or why he's going or why he's running and where he's going, and so she gives all that information up and she goes back to. And one more thing they talked about was the fact that one of the reasons why Enterprise is on Fritz is because they have I think they had hollows, and then he's like, rip it out and go back to just the screens, right? That was one thing.
So they've been doing a lot of one-liner fix for continuity. Mm-hmm. So the Klingon hair thing, the D7, and now there's been a big thing about how come they've been using holograms all over the place, and we've never seen holograms in Star Trek before, really. And then it went to DS9, where it was a big thing to have holodecks on holographic technology on the bridge, where you could talk to people. And so, like, oh wait, this was this advanced technology. Where has it been the last 100 years?
Apparently it's not that advanced. It's been there. It's just because Enterprise. I think the main captain of Enterprise, or one of the first captains of Enterprise, just didn't like it. I guess that's what it was.
So what they're kind of saying now is that the reason why the first series didn't have technology is because Pike ripped it out. I guess they never bothered to replace it because the guy.
It wasn't working, right? Didn't she say it wasn't?
Yeah,
working?
It wasn't
like,
working.
Forget it. Just get rid of it anyways. I don't like it.
But what kind of ruins it is the line of, "Hey, Pike, only you and my grandmother are still using view screens anymore." So that kind of like, oh wait, what? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, he likes what he likes. I guess that's just what it is. So what we get that line, I thought that was really cute to touch on. So I think so she goes and now they're on the chase. They're chasing Spock.
One thing, by the way, they should stop using holographs because it's a useless budget thing, right? You could just have a view screen and get more effect. I think the face to face effects was different than the holographic. We've gotten better performances out of the view screen thing than we have the holographic ones, in my opinion.
All right, go on.
So we're now in the chase of Spock, and while they're in warp in the chase of Spock, something pulls them out of warp. A planet or a sphere, a dying star or a dying planet pulls them out of warp. We don't know it's dying at first.
Which, by the way, had nothing to do with the Angel for once, which I kind of liked about this episode.
What I thought about. Okay,
I like that things can be happening to these Star Trek characters that aren't about the meta plot all the time.
But so while you didn't think of it, I saw when it first pulled them out of warp and we didn't see the sphere, we saw it on the screen, because it's like what pulled us out, and then they showed on the screen, it just showed as a red dot. So I thought it was the red dot.
Yeah, it was a faint.
So it pulled them out of warp, and so it's, I think they go through this whole thing, and then with Saru realizing that he's getting sick, and this is why he's getting sick.
Using languages, and there's a virus infecting the computer.
I thought that was really
and Sneeze Guy got a name and more lines.
Yeah,
Sneeze Alien.
Yeah, they made it more important. The virus thing didn't make a lot of sense. I didn't understand the virus thing because they kept talking about it like maybe it was biological, and then it wasn't biological. It was interfacing with the computers. I didn't totally understand. And as these guys know, I kept thinking it reminded me of Voyager, because in Voyager, they actually use like biotech computers. And I was like, oh, it would make a lot of sense on Voyager if like this creature was like if a real virus could infect the computers of Voyager. That's actually a thing that could happen on Voyager that couldn't happen.
I think they were just confused about what it was, so they probably did mention it.
It might have just been that they don't know how a computer virus works. They think it works just like a disease. Which is kind of a sad state, but
that consultant was on break when they gave him
he probably was
it spreads like a virus in the
take 5 everybody, and we can actually shoot this right now.
So they came up with that alien guy that sneezed on the elevator had been sick. In episode 1, and they said something's going around, and then Saru said he was under the weather. So apparently this alien spear is emitting so many different frequencies and so many different energy patterns and so many different waves. Like Saru could actually see, was it gamma rays he was seeing?
It was some kind of ray. I don't remember.
Right. So
made me think, where's that guy who's wearing Geordi's little thing? Because he would have been able to see him too.
Right. And so then you go to that where it was affecting the systems, which I think it was trying to interface with the system, and the computer couldn't handle all that 100,000 years of information.
Right.
And I think at the same time, Saru,
I think that's what I didn't understand. I understand how rays, maybe I know too much about science, but there's no way that like gamma rays or whatever can interface with a computer. Like, it doesn't make any sense. There needed to be another way that it was interfacing with the computer. Anyways,
I don't think they said how it was. They just said it was.
What should have happened?
I think Saru was seeing the messages. It was. Okay. So this is how I looked at it. Right. I felt like it was sending messages any way it could to let people know.
That might be true.
It was sending.
It should have been more clear.
So everything from Morse code to whatever,
it was probably
all sending out. Because if you think it's been around for 100,000 years, wherever
it knows all of that.
So I think it was sending out any wavelength. I think that what happened is that the aliens that eat Saru's people, they send out a wavelength message to signal those and I think that it also sent out that same kind of signal, and it activated that thing.
I agree.
So
I think that's what happened to you.
Right. So and I also think that the ship's computer was overwhelmed with the amount of information and things like that. So I saw that.
This I think connects into Calypso.
Oh, that's another thing is.
What did y'all think? Oh my God!
What did y'all think about the?
I'm sorry. I am sorry, but Patrick, you just said something that blew my mind. Calypso. That's why Discovery is who Discovery is in Calypso.
How it evolves. Yeah, it has all this knowledge in it. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just gonna say, what did y'all think about the language thing on the ship?
It was a little bit. I liked what they were trying to get across, but the execution felt kind of off to me. I don't know why, but it was fine. Whatever. I think the language thing's actually what threw me off with what the heck was going on. Because, again, what does the language thing have to do with this planet trying to download as much information as possible?
So this is what I thought. That, again, the system was having issues with overloading. I was more concerned about, wait, all y'all don't speak the same language and everybody's getting translated on the ship all the time?
I didn't understand that either. Is that what they were trying to say? That's what I mean. I didn't understand what was going on.
So
because then they were also
kind of confusing because do they all wear universal translators? Is there a piece in their ear? Is there some tech that they wear once they join the Federation?
Is that what they were trying to say?
That's a very exploitable weakness. Like
exactly. Exactly.
But is that what they were trying to say? They all speak different languages?
I wasn't sure if the universal translator was translating everybody's speech in real time to something different.
That's what I thought they were trying to say.
Or it was all out of everybody's was because Saru came in and just spoke a language, and if the universal translator was just translating people's things differently, it wouldn't matter how he said something.
I know, that's why it did make sense.
Right.
So that's what I don't understand. I didn't understand that, and I feel like that's actually where I got really confused about the virus thing and everything else. I feel like it was a bad way of introducing what was going on. I know they were trying to do something very dramatic and like oh my gosh, something bad is happening. But it didn't quite connect with what the planetoid was actually doing. Or if it did, they needed to explain it more once they figured it out better.
The other part,
once they solved it, I still didn't understand.
But again, forget about every other system.
Spoken languages, though.
Attack the Universal Translator on a Starfleet ship, and that ship is in disarray.
But also, did they flash down to engineering, and weren't they still just talking like normal?
I think yes. I think engineering was one of the parts that wasn't affected. But the other thing was,
I didn't understand why one part would be affected and not. It just wasn't clearly
they
laid
mentioned
out.
that they sectioned off engineering so it couldn't be affected by whatever was going on.
It wasn't just spoken languages though, because again, I think Detmer or one of them said my keyboard is in a different language. So the whole system, all systems. But that's the thing. Could it have been a malfunction with Universal? It threw me off a little bit. But
you would think a Starfleet requirement is that all y'all better speak basic something. Basic Vulcan, basic English, whatever is gonna. Also, let's be honest. If there would be a universal language when we all got off the planet of Earth, it's probably going to be Spanish. So I mean, it's not going to be English. It could be Arabic. It could be Cantonese.
But at the time Star Trek happened, what would have been in the universe the biggest language in the world at the time? English, right?
I mean, like then, like in the 60s.
Yeah, I'm saying like then. Yeah, it would be English.
American.
It doesn't. None of it really matters. We can move on. I just that trope or whatever you want to call it, like that. No. But what I mean is that thing threw me off about a lot of other things going on throughout the rest of the episode. Mm-hmm. And if it had just been more cleanly executed, it would have really helped me follow the plot threads of the rest of the episode. But the whole language thing confused me about the nature of the virus and what was going on. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So to me, that would have been a better episode, that the main problem was the language. Look, you meet this entity, the language barrier goes out. Something's happened with this entity where the Enterprise, the Discovery is going to be destroyed, and the Universal Translator is translating. There's something different to everybody, and so Saru has to go to every station and switch things.
Right,
would have been very interesting.
But if I had seen Saru doing that, would have made more sense.
But that is what he did. Like I said, it wasn't just spoken languages; it was also keyboard.
But he just started talking, and people started understanding what he was saying.
No. But he also left. He also went per station and typed something.
Right. I think you missed what we're saying.
No, I understand what you're saying.
If the Universal Translator was making everybody speak a different language,
right,
then it didn't matter what he said. He might be able to understand it, but he would still be speaking different languages, right?
Right.
Yes.
If all it did was turn off, and so everybody was speaking the natural language they already spoke, that's a really big issue.
Yeah,
but I don't think it turned off. I think it just.
Yeah, I don't think it turned off either. They just didn't execute how Saru fixed it cleanly, and that was the problem. That's what I'm trying to say.
What would have been more important, like what was important though, was the fact that keyboards went different languages, and he was able to. At least that was cool. They executed that part of it well. It was probably the spoken part of it that they needed to execute. But again, so the
I do wish they mentioned the 94 languages thing in another episode earlier, and then brought that up here.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because they just happened to say it then, right?
Yeah, it was almost plot device, plot armor type thing. Like
again, I think they're trying to grow Saru into more.
Yeah, like this was what you were talking about earlier, how they're trying to make him more of an important character. One other thing though, so while Saru is dying, he realizes that the only reason why what he would do if he was dying was pass his knowledge along to someone. Like this is what I know. And if I knew more, I would go back to my planet. I would tell him, I've seen so much. I know so much. This is the knowledge. And then I think that was the realization that he came to, and he realized that that's what, probably what the sphere was doing. It was dying because again, they kept saying it was getting ready to implode. And so he went up deck and he told them, hey, drop the guards, let whatever send whatever it needs to send. And it did. But while that was happening, while that's happening, they're losing Spock. Like Spock is going out of warp range, tracking range, or known tracking range, because at the end of the episode, when when the planet gives them all the information, they know now they have a way of tracking Spock because the planet gave them something, and that was how they found that out because we needed
real quick
because it was literally 6 minutes and all of that happened inside of or a little outside of 6 minutes. Go ahead.
Real quick, what Lord of the Rings character am I?
The eye, Charon.
Oh my goodness!
I don't know why I let you do that. Anyway, so that happens, and then another important part of the plot is last episode we finally got rid of May. May was taken out, or May's spore or cocoon was of venom. Symbiote was taken out of Tilly, and we find out what May could want in this episode because she
doesn't it seem pretty clear that May is really mad at Stamets, but it's the Mirror Universe Stamets. That's what I'm getting. I think because remember, Mirror Universe Stamets is a bad guy. Yes. So she thinks that Stamets is the bad guy.
Yeah, and so she's taking that Stamets out. Yeah. And so she cocoons her. They release her from the cocoon, but
that's
somehow
some creepy stuff. They also drill into her head.
Yes.
While she's awake. Oh,
that was cute. That was really cute. That was really cute.
So we haven't gotten on the symbiote thing.
What's your favorite song?
We haven't gotten to this symbiote thing before.
Venom.
First of all, during this race,
May is
that Tilly has, and May starts talking to Tilly. Tilly stops and has a whole fucking conversation with the spores. Everybody else is still running. Not only does Tilly catch up to them, but wins the race after like a minute and a half of talking to them.
She caught her breath.
Tilly is no joke, man.
You know when you're running.
Tilly is the fastest human alive at this point.
She caught her breath.
Or maybe those other. I've seen this happen. I've run some long distance races. I've seen those sprinters. They're like, that first lap. Way ahead, and you get to that second lap, and they're kind of trailing. And by the fourth lap, they're way back there.
Tilly stopped in the whole conversation.
It could be the symbiote helped her out.
We've all seen symbiote boosted her.
We've all seen Venom. You know how
it did not make any sense. Anthony's absolutely right.
It threw me out that whole.
It did not make any sense.
I was like. Not only did she finish, but she won. Won.
I'm saying Venom helped her out. There's no way she won the race without Venom.
It took me like 5 minutes to get back into this show after that.
I know. I don't disagree with that.
Anyways, like I said, that moment with Stamets, Reno, and Tilly was cute. Where
it's the best.
Where you couldn't. Where it was like Stamets. Whatever Stamets wanted to do, like
that was real Star Trek right there. Because figuring stuff out, solving stuff, him helping her through like all that. Like, what's your favorite song? Everything in that was like real, like the Star Trek that all the people who don't like Discovery, and I like Discovery, but all the people who don't like Discovery
should like that.
They saw that scene, they would be like, "This is what I've been looking for."
Yeah, keep your Meteor Rapid thing that you were doing in that first episode. Keep all that. Give me more of this. This is my shit right here.
See, so this is
right. And Stamets also needed a foil, and the engineer is a foil for him.
Yes. So what I really loved about one of the scene or a moment in the scene is how when Stamets is like, okay, we have to talk to whatever the entities inside of her, and Reno suggests the only way to do it is to drill into her head. And Stamets tries to go back through his science matter, fact finding way, and he's like, "There's no other way to do this." But
no, he delivers it cold. He's like, "No, dude." I don't remember how he delivers it, but he's like, "Yeah, the drill."
You're right, and it was really cool to see them because they've been going back and forth on how to do anything the whole episode. It was finally like, okay, so this is where we agree. This is the one part we agree on, and it was cool. But at the end of the episode. Tilly disappears into the mycelial network through Venom. I'm gonna call May Venom at this point. I don't care what anyone says. She's gonna disappear.
Food that May can be Venom.
Emergency rations, and Venom,
right? Yeah. So she disappears, and then we find out that emergency rations. The fact that when he gets sick, it wasn't to die. This is what he's known his whole life. It wasn't to die.
The species was designed to like go through a puberty or something. And
pretty much, you were shedding. You were shedding.
So I'm about to go. I got to go. But there's one thing I really want to say about that whole thing. I think that
was a moment, though.
Well, I think that Saru. I think we have a problem on our hands with the new Saru. I think we're about to find. I think have you ever like the kid who gets beat up all the time, and then suddenly they go and do some bodybuilding and they got some strength? Those are the kids to watch out for, man. Those are like, I think Saru, this new confident Saru, he's not going to know how to handle that confidence, and it's going to come out in some dangerous, bad ways. And I think he could become. I think it'll be really interesting if they explore that character well. But I don't think he's going to be the perfect hero.
He's not going to be passive anymore. He's not going to be passive.
He's
like he found the hawk inside of himself.
Yeah.
There was an episode last season. I don't know if you guys remember where Saru was being, where their signal was coming from a planet and it was messing with him, and he became a predator. Yes, I think
that's
is where
a good point.
Yeah, I think we're going to see some of that. Saru, I think it. Yeah, I think it'll be really interesting. And his confidence, not even confidence. Almost like, if I got to take over the ship, I'm going to go and rescue the people on my planet kind of attitude is what I got from him. Like, just a sense of like, don't get in my way.
I hope the species that eats his species, I hope they really are a whole different species and not just...
and not an evolved, not the ones who've
That's what some people have theorized. Maybe
they're the ones who dropped the etheric ganglia.
But that's kind of weird because then they're like eating themselves.
Cannibals. But anyways, thank you, fellas. Thank you, Patrick. That's a very cool.
We'll end on cannibalism.
Exactly. That's a very cool place.
Oh man!
Thank you, thoughts. So
thank you guys for coming. Thank you, Patrick, for making the time because we.
Sorry, I gotta go. All right,
and we will catch you on the next one. Peace.